News and TV.
On this beautiful Sunday night, we are coming to you live from our Nile Serena studios. This is Perspective with Josephine Karunji.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program. Tonight, Joel Benjamin Ntwatwa, Ruth Nankanja Mchiwi, both share with us their stories, their real-life stories of living with the sickle cell disease. Ashraf Sevandeke shares his story as well, but he does not have the disease. He is a carrier. So before we meet them, let's take a look at their stories. People know that if a child inherits the sickle cell gene from one of the parents, then they are just carriers and lead a normal life. It's only if the child inherits the gene from both parents that they have the sickle cell disease. That, though, is not the case with Ashraf Sevandeke. He is a carrier, but he suffers the symptoms of one with the disease.
I still get the joint pain, I get the body pain, I get the general body pain, I get swelling.
He has sought answers from many health facilities without much success.
I've done all tests. I've consulted everywhere. I've consulted doctors in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, US, Nigeria. No one seems to give me an answer.
When he was younger, Sevandeke thought he had sickle cell disease. He lived in fear.
It was at 12 years. That's when I did that test. Because by then I had seen 2 people who had passed on from sickle cell. So when they told me I had sickle cell, I knew it was a done deal. So I knew I was also going to die like them.
The most frustrating thing for him is that most people don't appreciate his situation. They assume he is ignorant when he tells them that while he gets all the symptoms, he is only a carrier.
In fact, recently in June I was in Nigeria. I met this professor of bone marrow transplant, and we talked to him and was like, no, a carrier is not supposed to get paid. So he said, let's redo that test. So he went to his, because he does bone marrow transplant from Nigeria, so he has a full center which differentiates all those types of sickle cell and its variants, and even thalassemia. So it went and did that test, and it really found out that I'm a carrier. So the more we explain that there are some carriers who get paid, the more we find more people don't believe. Whether they are hematologists or these other doctors, they are like, you are lying.
Have you found other people that are also carriers but they get the pain?
Currently I have found like more than 10.
Joel Benjamin Ntwatwa and Ruth Nankanja Mchiwi live with the sickle cell disease.
At 6 months? Yes, at 6 months. My parents came back from work. I was their firstborn, and they found that I had swollen fingers and toes. They tell me they had to send off the nanny that was taking care of me. They thought probably this nanny had mismanaged me or something. And shortly after, they treated me, and after 2 weeks, again the thing reoccurred.
I remember being carried to the hospital. I had a yellowing foot.
Oh?
Yellowing foot. It was very yellow, and they were taken me to the hospital. And I didn't know, I mean, as a kid, I didn't know as even excited as like, interesting, I have a yellow foot. But so anyway, I went and they did their things, and you begin falling sick more often than usual, and you find out, oh, this is not really normal.
And so their harrowing journeys began. For Joel, the worst experience was having to leave the safety of home and go to school where fellow children taunted him and the teachers treated him as though he were fragile.
When you join school is when I think the reality sort of hits you, because you're taken out of the protection of your home, of your family, of people who understand what you're dealing with, and you're taken into a wider space of people who might not even know what sickle cell anemia is. at least at home I was safe. Good. I mean, like remember when I was at school, going back home was like it was safe because at home, at school you're going to tones of like a guy, the Sickle. And at times I was like, I remember the time I got so angry, I was like, you know what? As you're special, you know, I began making up stories. I began saying things like, I have yellow blood, by the way. You want to cut me and shake my blood? It's yellow. I'm cool. Like, and so some people would be like, oh my God. So, you know, like when you're kids, people would be like, oh, this guy has. And then at times I'll tell guys like, me, I know when I'm going to die. I actually have those powers, you know, so you can see where your life is ending. So I told guys I'm going to be in the year 2000. So guys are like, so they got all sad. And I was like, otherwise I was a kid who was called all sorts of terms. Sickler, looks weird. At some point they said, this kid has kwashako, he looks weird. He has a big stomach. There was all sorts of things, you know, and it was tough.
It didn't help that he had jaundice and his eyes were vividly yellow. To cope, he kept to himself and only interacted with one of his brothers who also has sickle cell disease.
It's a silent support for each other. You know that someone else has it, and you don't really complain.
He vividly remembers one sports day at school when he moved to join the competitions and run.
I remember they were like, okay, let the boys run. Then they were like, Joe, you're going to run with the girls. And I ran with the girls, and I tried. I don't know if I won. I don't think I won, but I tried. I might have come second, but it was good enough for me, like racing. At least proving that I could do something physical. But people don't want me to do anything physical. They don't want me to.
Do you find that you're constantly having to prove yourself?
Physically, at some point I gave up. But I do have to prove myself in many ways.
Joel and Nankanja found different ways to fit in and hide their pain.
So even each time they had to go out for beach bashes, they want to go for swimming, I had to go with them because I never wanted them to find out that I had this disease, you know. And each time you went, you stood by the shores after swimming. By midnight, you're already crying, you know. But now that I have grown up, I can't do some of those things.
At 43 years now, Nankanja sharply recalls that when she was younger, an expiry date was placed on her head.
Even us when we were young, at each age we reached, they'll tell you if you're 12 now, you're not going to grow beyond 15. If you reached 15, they'll tell you you won't grow beyond 18. And if you're 18, they would push it to 22. So all the time, especially at those years, you would break down more often because your brain is actually focused to your death. Sometimes you would get a crisis and you start figuring out your funeral, what coffin they'll be bringing for you, and what food they'll be eating, and you wouldn't imagine. All the time you broke down, you thought about death.
When she was 6 months old, the doctors told her parents to end the marriage and split up.
Unfortunately, the doctor told them to break up because then this relationship was not worthwhile. They were not going to have any normal children, and he told them they were not going to see me like grow up, so they shouldn't waste much time and money on me. Fine, they should feed me, but to a certain extent, because I was going to pass on any time. And this one like sort of angered them. They got so depressed. This was their first baby. Neither of them had seen it from either family, so they started pointing fingers, blaming each other. But fortunately, they also went for testing, and they found out they had the trait. Both of them. Yeah. So they tell me, my father now initiated the dialogue and told my mom, since this child is going to die early, okay, let us stay together, give her more love and care so that by the time she dies, at least she has had it all.
What does crisis look like?
Crisis is a painful situation that as patients we cannot actually describe this and another person understands it. Because at during now, if I got a terrible, painful crisis, you'll find they are feeding me, they are bathing me, they are carrying me. I practically cannot do a thing for myself. You know, if you don't turn me, sometimes if you don't turn me and you leave the house like in the morning, you come back in the evening, you'll find me sleeping that side because it's painful. But even when you touch me, it is like the whole body is burnt and like all the bones are aching.
I might go to bed when I'm fine, and I wake up like at 2 a.m. and everything is messed up. When I say messed up, all the bones in my body are aching. It could be my head, it could be my elbows, it could be my chest, it could be my waist, it could be anything.
The pain can be extreme, but it does not kill.
But when you compare the painful crisis, you compare the pain of Caesar, and you compare the pain of labor pain, you'd rather give birth to 100 kids than get one painful crisis. It is really, really painful. But it won't kill you. You'll die because of malaria. You'll die because of stress. You will die because of anemia.
The pain does not grow any less with age. There are triggers like bad weather, dehydration, malaria, stress, and exhaustion.
I was actually yesterday thinking about the strike of the doctors now, or health workers. This is a cold weather, and I imagine, of course, feeding is not well with people because some people are low-income earners. They eat a meal a day, so you expect a lot of anemias. So I was wondering if the health workers are on a sit-down strike, and then there is this sickle cell baby who comes into hospital and probably has HB of 3 grams. What happens? Probably there are many now dying.
Family support is very crucial for anybody with sickle cell disease because many times the person needs help, especially during painful crisis.
My family, I think, is the best family in the world. I have to say that I lost my brother recently to cancer, which for me was really sad and awkward and ironic because I thought, I don't mean it in a bad way, I thought it would have been fair for me to go first. But my brother was the kind of guy who would run up and down. He asks you, what do you want? Like, he'd make sure you have everything you need. And when I think of my brother and all the guys at home, you know, making sure that you need, like, you have everything that you want, I think to myself, this is like the best family in the world.
Well, let's introduce our guests for this evening, and they're here with us. I'll start with Ashraf Sevandeke, who is to my extreme right. Ashraf Sevandeke is the Executive Director, Action Against Sickle Cell Disease. Welcome, Ashraf.
Thank you. Good
Right.
evening, viewers.
Right, and next to him is Joel Benjamin Twatwa, who is a poet, a thinker, a blogger, a writer, digital content and social media specialist, as well as a book reviewer. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, Josephine, and welcome, viewers.
Right, and Ruth Nankanja Mchibi, who is the founder, Sickle Cell Association of Uganda. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here, and to thank you,
Right.
our viewers, for being around.
So you've watched your stories individually. I don't know, Ashraf, if now at this point you relate to their stories.
Yeah, I do. Because most of what they go through is what I go through. The daily pain. For me, I don't know any day without pain because I live with pain every day. I have to move with it. I get the pain they get, what they are explaining, and I also get the other kind of pain, which is constant. It doesn't require a crisis to have it, so it's a daily pain. So it only changes the magnitude.
You mentioned paralysis at some point.
Yeah, it's not the real paralysis, but the way I can explain the pain I go through, it's like paralysis. Take an example, if you are holding ice in your hands and you are in pain. So that's the kind of pain that I go through. And it happens on only one side. I can't tell you that I don't have it. I have it even now. So only this side. Sometimes up to the head. And you feel it only on one side of the head, up to the feet.
How do you cope in that kind of pain? And this is for all of you.
For me, because with this one-sided pain, even painkillers can't take them away. Because one time a physician gave me a combination of tramadol, diclofenac, ibuprofen.
To be taken at once?
And diclofenac, yeah.
Okay.
And it didn't do anything. So he had to withdraw it and even put me on the medication that can protect my liver. So currently, what I do is I see a chiropractor. I'm fortunate that someone recommended him to me, because we have only one resident chiropractor in Uganda. So I have to see him at least once a week. If I miss, I know it will be worse.
How do you guys deal with the pain?
Yeah, I think what he's actually talking about is could be an additional to the painful crisis, because for me at 43, I've never experienced that. Yeah,
and yet
I have sickle cell disease.
Is 100 times worse than childbirth.
It is worse than child, because I have 3 children, but I would rather give birth to 100 than get one painful crisis.
Joel, how do you deal?
How do I cope? Usually I make sure I have tramadol, and my mind sort of has a warning system. If I sense I might fall sick, I sort of take tramadol before I go to bed, because usually my crises hit at night. So for me, basically, I make sure I have some meds on me. If it comes and I have no meds, then that's what the night holds.
All right, so we're going to take a short break after learning a bit about your stories, and then we'll come back and we'll start our conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room. Well, before we took the break, Ashraf, you mentioned that you have to see a chiropractor every week.
Yeah.
And that begs the question, what is the cost of sickle cell disease or trait in your case? Yours is a special case, actually.
For me, for a session of a chiropractor costs 30,000.
So every week, 30,000 shillings.
And I've been seeing him since March 2015.
But this is not including other costs, medicine and everything else?
No, it doesn't include whatever. Because for the chiropractic, it's like a physiotherapy. You walk in, you have the session, get worked on, no other medicine. It's a conservative kind of medicine. So minus other medicine I will have to buy for this other pain.
30,000 each week. What is the general cost for sickle cell disease?
General cost for sickle cell disease, this is actually, if I'm estimating only for the painful crisis, if someone got a painful crisis, on average you would need like 50,000 shillings a day.
A day?
A day, because you're looking at the painkillers, the antibiotics if you need to visit the clinic, and then you need to eat fruits and vegetables daily. You need lots of fluids, so it's really costly.
How many people can afford this? From some of the statistics that you shared with me, 1 in 10 Ugandans carries the trait, right? So 25,000 babies are born with sickle cells.
Yes.
Each year?
Each year, yes.
How many of these people can afford 50,000 shillings each day?
Very few, and that's why many of them actually, out of the 25,000 babies born annually, we lose 80% of those babies before they celebrate their 5th birthday. Partly because some people do not have the knowledge, others have the knowledge, they don't have the facilities where to run to. Others have the information, but they can't afford, like we have said. Others, many issues actually cause those deaths, and others still think it's either witchcraft, a bad omen, or something like that, because the awareness is still very low about this disease.
Joel, I saw a tweet on your social media, on your Twitter page,
Yes.
and you were talking about the clinic in Ulago. You mentioned they don't have facilities, but we have that.
As far as I know, there's one facility in the whole of Uganda that takes care of sickle cell patients. And they mostly cater to infants, the young.
It's a
So
daycare center.
It's more or less a daycare center. So if you go there and you're an adult like me and you're going through your issues, I won't say what will happen, but you're better off being an infant, you know. But there's only one facility in the whole country. I think the other option that I know that they usually send people to is to Chirudu, which is on the other side of town. I think it's more like blood. It's more with to do with hematology. It's more about blood work, you know. But the only center I know so far is that
The daycare center in Lago.
Why is it called a daycare center, though?
Well, even if you're a child, this center, first of all, is under the Department of Pediatrics.
Okay.
But much as it's under the Department of Pediatrics, you go there, like Ruth, you're pregnant, you're seen there, there's no privacy. And sometimes, most of the times, you'll go there, you'll only find children. And then, in most cases, if you find pediatricians handling, sometimes they will say, you're not a pediatric patient, because they imagine kids below 12 years are the ones that should ideally be going through the clinic. So it's a hide-go-seek center for the adults. So the adults normally try to survive somehow.
Are there plans for a center that caters for everybody that needs this kind of center?
As an association, yes, we have plans. For us,
well, first of all, as a country, do we have that plan?
As a country, yes, there are documents, because I sit at the Technical Working Committee for Non-Communicable Diseases in this country. And I think for the last 5 years, we've documented all those things that we need to see through. For example, we suggested that can we have sickle cell clinics right from health center 4s and upwards? And then can we do newborn screening? For example, all babies born in Uganda, we should catch them as they immunize them, we should catch them at that point and refer them to the health center 4s. And then we follow them so that we don't lose all the 80%. That is a very big number, because they are dying of simple things that could be preventable. But as you know, Uganda, we do very good documents, but when we go for implementation, even the budget line is not there.
As your association, do you have any plans?
Yes, as an association, we have plans. We have managed to get land. We have drawn plans. We want to build a proper sickle cell management center for everybody, and which will work 24 hours, 7 days a week. It will cost us 2.5 billion Uganda shillings, and we will be starting fundraising hopefully next year.
Okay.
We should be breaking ground.
All right. Joel, I think I'll ask you this one. When you have a crisis, so you guys of course know what you need to do, what happens, but the people that are around you, so if I'm at home and maybe I'm watching and I'm thinking, when that happens, what do I do to help? How do I come in?
I think for me it depends on the level of pain personally, because there are times when all I need is maybe to take 2 tramadol, and I maybe wait for give and take maybe 90 minutes, and maybe the pain will go away, and at times it will not go away, and I need to get to a health center as soon as possible.
How do I tell that you need my help?
First of all, someone has to first open up and you know that the person will need it. Because if you keep quiet, no one will know that you need hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
surely.
If you keep it to yourself, no one will know. So you have to first open up, and that's the most challenging part, because most people don't want to open up.
Is there first aid for
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And if someone got pain out there, if whether an adult or a baby, there are those 4 things that everybody out there should not forget. And before you even think about medicine, think about drinking. Drink as lots of fluids as you can take in.
So for me, number 1 is to give
Number
the
1 is
person
drinking before
fluids.
you even think of any medicine. Why? Because the pain comes on because of the shape of this red blood cell. So it has blocked the flow of blood, it has damaged the tissues around that area, and so you're crying because of pain. So when you take in this fluid that you're taking, preferably water, because the digestion process will be slower compared to other things. This will go and flush it out.
Okay.
The way you can see running water with rubbish in the trenches. After it rains, the trenches are always very clean because they have taken away the rubbish.
What's the next thing?
Then the next step is taking painkillers. You always have to have painkillers.
So we should know which painkillers you are on.
The adults, what will work for you is probably you're going to begin right away with either diclofenac or ibuprofen, because Panadol won't do anything, even if you took a tin of 1,000 tabs.
Okay.
And with the children, it can take, you can take like Panadol, or you combine Panadol and ibuprofen.
Please don't make us doctors. The person who is will probably have told that this is the medicine that I take. So I know that because I can't begin then to measure for myself and guess,
No. When you go to the drug shops, they'll,
Yes, so
they'll give you according to the ages.
Okay,
They'll be
okay.
knowing.
So the
Yeah.
third thing.
Then the third thing, if for example it's the heart that the hand that is hurting that time, get a hot water bottle, put it around that place where you're crying or complaining of pain. Why? Because normally if it is a cold season like now, the veins of a human being always shrink. So for a sickle cell patient, if they shrink, then the other blockage will come on. So when you put a hot water bottle, it will help them sort of to expand, and so it will go through well. And then the last thing is to give assurance to this person that, okay, yeah, I'm not a sickle cell patient, but I'm trying to understand what you're going through. You're not going to die. I know it's painful, but we are going to the clinic. You'll be well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there is enough awareness about screening?
No, we don't think. I
Really
don't think.
not.
What more can be done?
I don't think there's enough. I mean, you have people getting into relationships and finding out that
One of them.
is a car, and then you have issues. I feel like we need some sort of I don't know what it should be, because you talked about screening at the level of when someone is born.
Newborn screening.
You know,
Can
I
they
mean,
screen a pregnant mother? Can they check?
They can't do it in Uganda,
Here in
but
Uganda.
yeah, globally, yes,
They
they
can.
can do that.
yeah,
Yes,
but
sure.
there's not enough. There's really not enough awareness. Or if there is, there's
there isn't.
there's a fear of. Yeah, there's not enough awareness. But even those who know, some of them look at it in a
Like
that's
if-
one of those.
If I tell them that's the end of our relationship.
Yeah, but you can even take an example why you can think that the awareness is too low. When you compare, sickle cell disease has been here for over 100 years, or I don't know how many. But when we compare, for example, HIV/AIDS,
Yes.
which has been here like for, let me say 40 years,
Yeah.
because I don't think it has lasted that much. But even a kid of 4 years
Knows about HIV.
knows about HIV. But when you talk about sickle cell disease, people will point fingers at the families that have the disease. Don't marry from that family. They have sickle cell disease. So even those that know, that's why they go undercover. They prefer not to say. Because then society is stereotyping them.
And
Well, Ashraf, I'm going to start with you when you come back from this break, but I'd just like to point out that Ruth is married with 3 children.
Yes, I
And
am.
yeah,
for the last 14 years.
Okay, so let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Is brought to you by StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room. Ashraf, before we took a break, you wanted to say something about screening.
yeah, I was saying, in fact, in areas where you can even give information about screening, even there are no screening centers. So you tell someone you need to do screening before marriage, then they ask you, where do we go?
Where do you go? Where do they go, actually?
Unfortunately, they have to come all the way to Kampala, which is not funny.
To Kampala, where?
To Kampala, you'll be coming to Mulago, that is Cancer Institute. Even the Sickle Cell Clinic does not screen. They don't have a machine. And you'll go to other private labs like Ebenezer, SAS, B, Mango. Those are the few credible ones that I would actually mention.
Okay.
Otherwise, others have actually also used that gap to fake those results. There are some labs that claim to be testing for sickle cell disease, but they fake the results, and by the time you come back, the doctors will say, no, where did you test from?
How much is that screening?
The minimum is 40,000
okay.
shillings, but of course people test even up to 170, depending where you have tested from. So it is really sad.
Well, we got some information earlier about the magnitude of sickle cell disease in Uganda. I'd like us to run some of those graphics. 25,000 babies are born annually with the disease in Uganda.
Yes.
80% never live to see their 5th birthday. 1 in 10 Ugandans carries the sickle cell trait. So if I said 10 people stand up from our audience, one of them could have the sickle cell trait.
Must have.
One of them must have.
Must have.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then up to 100 children are received at the pediatrics department in Mulago, and many die without the doctors and parents knowing the cause of death as sickle cells. The Sickle Cell Clinic in Mulago has over 7,000 patients registered with it, and on average sees 200 patients 5 days a week.
Yes.
This is the only sickle cell clinic, and it is a daycare center operating from Monday to Friday, yet sickle cell patients get attacks at any time. So when you get an attack at any time, this is where you find that people are going to, and I noticed that from all of your stories, you all have private places that you've found. And for me now, this is where the cost of sickle cell becomes even more.
Very expensive.
If it's private clinics, it must be
very expensive, surely.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, if I've been through a crisis of about, let me say 2 or 3 weeks, I might have to pay about 1 million or 1.5. So it's
wow.
So yes, so it's not cheap.
You're a very rich young man.
I'm not rich. I have a good support group.
You have a good support system.
My family helps me out.
And like you said in your story, I think that's one of the key things, that you have a strong support system. Do people understand the value of testing, do you think?
I don't think they do.
Do they actually understand the magnitude?
No, they don't understand the magnitude of this problem, and it is only when a couple has gotten this baby that people start running around and wondering where it has come from. But ideally, the starting point should be, before I even go ahead with this relationship, what is the sickle cell status of this person? For example, personally, before I got married to this Mr. Mchivi, I had 2 sides. If I got a man who was a sickle cell trait carrier, I had made a decision of not giving birth at all, because I was not willing to see my kid go through the pain I went through. And but if I got someone who had AA, then I would go ahead and give birth to my kids. Of course, my kids would be normal, healthy, but they are carrying the gene. So this is very, very important. Before you even think of if I get this baby, can you test yourself so that you know your sickle cell status, then you can make an informed decision.
Can I have lived to this age and I don't know, and yet I might have it?
No. No.
So
They
is
are
it
not
safe to
shortcuts.
say that
The only way it can happen, because you have the symptoms,
The
you will be
pains,
suffering,
yeah, you will be
but you
having
may
the
not
pains.
have been
You
diagnosed. Because
yeah.
I've seen people who are 50 and they didn't know.
Okay.
But
still
they were
when you-
getting
when-
the pains.
Yeah, when you go back to their stories, they are getting the pain, but they didn't know. And sometimes some of
So it's
them have
probably
been sent to
witchcraft.
the witchcraft, to the shrines.
Okay. Do you think health workers are trained to handle the patients?
No.
Jill, that was a quick shake of the head.
There is
No, for me, no.
a big gap in the training, because in this country, I think the people who really try to understand sickle cell disease are the pediatrician, hopefully because they receive us fast and they stay with us for some time, so they get a bit of experience. So even at 43 years, you would be more comfortable seen
a
by a
pediatrician.
pediatrician other than being seen by a physician or a hematologist. So the training's actually very, very lacking. Even if you went to a guy inside, like me, a woman, you don't do your antenatals when there is no pediatrician to manage you on this side. The guy will send you away unless you don't disclose that I have the disease, so which is a big risk as well.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, health workers, unless they know someone personally who has the disease and it affects them as well, that's when I feel that they know how to respond better. But when you do not have, and like if you have no personal connection to the disease, I feel like for you it's another.
Just another person
Yeah, I mean,
walking in
yeah,
needing
exactly. So I feel like, and I've experienced this. You go to a place and they're like, they're treating people, all, I mean, in a very mean ways, and you're wondering, do you know that this guy has sickle cell? That do you know that this could actually
Happen, yeah.
like trigger a crisis or make it worse? You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, most people
Ashraf,
learn
these are
on
going to
job.
be your final words because our time is fast spent. I'd like you to give us your closing remarks.
One thing I would like is for the curriculum to change and include sickle cell, because it's national everywhere there is sickle cell.
Which curriculum?
For the health workers,
Okay.
and even to be like with the way we learned about HIV in primary, by any time they were giving information about HIV. So that's what we need,
Okay.
that everyone get to know about sickle cell. We don't need this kind of people where someone gets out of the medical school and is learning about sickle cell on job.
Okay.
So they are putting the risks of the people. They are putting people's lives at danger.
Yeah, okay. Joel, your closing remarks.
I'm here, I'm 32. I'm organizing things, I'm writing, I'm editing, I'm basically alive. And so my call would be that you consider that people with the disease are actually normal people who can actually do normal things. So do not look at them and be like, that guy, you know, so I mean, accept who they are, know what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are, and if you can, focus on their strengths. All my previous bosses have been able to see this, and they've helped me thrive as a person. So I'm really against sickle cell stigma, and so I'm about know the disease, get tested, get screened, and consider those are the disease as people who are the same as you. I don't have yellow blood, by the way. It's actually, it's red as yours. So
Okay.
we are the same.
All right. Thank you, Joel. Ruth, finally.
Yes, finally, one thing I want to give the public out there is that each time you see a sickle cell person or child or anyone, just support them. One thing I know about them, they are very bright kids. You might find a sickle cell kid who falls sick like 2 months in a term, but when exams are given to even these ones that have been attending, this one will come on top. And most of them will actually do professional courses. You rarely find a sickle cell person doing a flat course. That is on record even with the teachers. We don't understand that. So kindly support them, stop the stigma, go and screen yourself because you don't know your status as well. Thank you very much.
And I think they should also support you guys as you try to build
Support us as
your
and
center.
then there are many successful stories, but because of the stereotype that is in the community, people never come out. You've seen me here. If it wasn't for this program, you wouldn't know there's someone at 43, has been married for 14 years. She's a university graduate. She's, you know, I've been working and I've spent like 10 years without getting this painful crisis because I know how to prevent.
Right.
Thank you for viewing.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
And that was it for this week. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition. Do keep it to NTV. Good night.
Renew your monthly basic bouquet subscription of 18,000 shillings before it expires. Then enjoy 3 free days only on StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.